Hello, everyone. My name is Svetlana Boyle, and today I'm here to talk to you about climate change and its effects on the native species of New Jersey. Native species are species that are indigenous to a given location or ecosystem due to natural selection and evolution over time. Native species are very important because they've evolved for survival within those ecosystems, meaning that they are better adapted to live within environmental conditions and local climates of those ecosystems. Now, native species support each other, meaning that native plant species have formed relationships with native animal species because they've evolved over time and have complex relationships throughout the process. So native species help maintain and enhance the natural biodiversity of a given location or ecosystem. What I mean by biodiversity is the variety of life. So biodiversity gives a good measure of the health of an ecological community. Climate change poses a threat to biodiversity that can exacerbate already established risks to ecosystems. Now, climate change describes any sort of change within the biosphere that is attributed to humans. So, human activities like agricultural production, growing cities, increased resource use, and disposal of waste are all factors that have effects on the planet because the planet responds to these activities by disrupting naturally existing cycles. So, for example, when humans use fossil fuels and combust fossil fuels, it increases the concentration of molecules such as carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, these increased concentrations disrupt the previous balance and create a positive feedback loop that creates global warming. Now, biodiversity loss is a direct effect and consequence of increased human activity, but even with current research that we've done today, we do not understand the relationship between biodiversity loss and climate change. Genetic diversity is something that is seen within a species and describes the genetic diversity within a population. So, species that have higher genetic diversity are better protected against climate changes and changes within their ecosystems because they're able to adapt changes and evolve. But current research also shows that even species that have very high levels of genetic diversity and thus a better chance to adapt to changes are lagging behind in their ability to adapt to the current changes in their ecosystems that are caused by climate change. New Jersey is actually one of the locations where these factors that are associated with climate change will impact natural resources and the native plant and animal species. This is because New Jersey has varied ecosystems with varied species, and specific ecosystems such as the wetland habitat will see very high levels of native species leaving while allowing non-native species to migrate in. Now, the wetlands are considered one of the most productive ecosystems in the world and are very important not only because they house thousands of species that are both aquatic and terrestrial, but also because they help protect shores from erosion, meaning that they protect all the inland ecosystems as well. Now, the risks and stressors that climate change places on ecosystems is going to compound with the already existing stressors, but as I mentioned, we don't know what that will be. So this study aims to directly understand the relationship that climate change has on loss of biodiversity, specifically relating to native species. So we do expect and hypothesize that although all the ecosystems that we study in New Jersey are going to experience species composition changes and loss of biodiversity, but specific habitats such as the wetlands habitats and habitats that have very high levels of biodiversity will experience the highest levels of biodiversity loss as a result of climate change. We hope this study can eventually be used to serve as a baseline for further studies of understanding the relationship between climate change and loss of biodiversity, but also so that we can identify the species and the ecosystems that are most threatened by changes in our climate so that we can identify them going forward and focus our protection on them. As I mentioned, we just don't understand the relationship between climate change and loss of biodiversity, specifically of native species. And our study is going to provide it's going to provide an answer for that question that nobody really knows the answer to right now. Thank you.